Okay, so you ever have those days or maybe weeks, months even, where you just feel wound up, like super tight, but on the outside you're all, yeah, no, I'm fine, totally fine.
Oh, for sure. Like you're scrolling social media, everyone's climbing mountains or whatever, and you're just
Eh,
trying to figure out if you remember deodorant.
Exactly. That frantic kind of just get through it energy instead of, actually feeling like you're, well, glowing.
Yeah. Surviving versus thriving. Big difference.
Well, today we're kind of throwing a lifeline to that exact feeling. We're doing a deep dive into Glow in the Fucking Dark by Tara Schuster.
Right. Think of it as like a practical guide to feeling a bit more human when everything feels chaotic.
Hmm?
Tara's really honest about her own stuff, you know?
Totally. The messy bits, career stuff, face planting emotionally. She puts it all out there.
And with this great mix of like real talk and humor, it's not about some magic fix overnight.
No, it's about small things, stuff you can actually do that genuinely makes a difference in how you feel day to day.
Yeah. And what I loved is how unpretentious it is. It feels like advice from someone who actually gets it because she's
Yeah.
been there.
Right. Not some perfect guru talking down from a cloud. She talks about being a hot mess, the anxiety, feeling lost. It's relatable.
So the mission for us today really is to pull out those key nuggets from the book.
Focusing on like how to soothe yourself when you're spiraling out.
And starting to deal with those deeper emotional wounds we all kind of carry around.
And ultimately, how to, well, choose yourself even when life feels like a runaway train. Okay, so where do we start with all this? There's a lot in there.
Well, a really big one, kind of foundational,
Mm.
is just acknowledging your right to feel whatever it is you're feeling.
Ah, yes. She talks about how she used to downplay her own stuff, right? Like feeling she wasn't allowed to feel bad because, it wasn't trauma with a capital T.
Exactly, that whole other people have it worse thing.
Yeah, which we all do. But she shares this quote from her therapist that just cuts through it. Every human has the right and worth to feel however they feel, full stop.
It sounds so simple, doesn't it?
It does, but actually letting yourself believe that without adding a million buts, that's harder.
It really is.
Aren't it?
Because we get stuck comparing, right? Like there's some hierarchy of pain and ours doesn't rank high enough.
Which she points out is totally unhelpful. It's not a competition.
Not at all. And she gives this simple test, basically. Did something from your past leave an emotional mark that keeps messing with your present? Like a pattern you can't shake. Does the past kind of bleed into today?
Yeah.
If the answer is yes, then you're allowed to claim that suffering. It's about the impact it has now.
That makes so much sense. It's not about judging the event, but acknowledging the fallout. Okay, so then she talks about this. Good enough plateau. What's that about?
Right. So that's describing that place where you're making decisions that are just, okay, fine, good enough.
Not terrible, but not great either. Just coasting.
Exactly. But she realized that settling for good enough everywhere actually made her feel more and more lost, kind of disconnected from what she really wanted.
Interesting. And how did she move past that? Was it like a sudden wake-up call?
Not really, no. It was actually her first steps into self-care that kind of shifted her perspective.
So, like, the small stuff gave her the clarity.
Yeah. Those little acts of kindness towards herself built up enough self-respect, enough awareness to see that good enough wasn't actually cutting it anymore. It gave her the headspace to realize, okay, there's more work to do here, even if she didn't feel totally ready for it yet.
It's like you got to clean the surface clutter before you even notice the deep grime underneath.
Exactly. You need that little bit of breathing room.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, one of the most like vivid scenes is her panic attack on the side of a highway. What came out of that really intense moment?
Yeah, that was, wow. It basically forced her to stop, literally.
Mm.
And in that unexpected quiet, feeling the ground beneath her, she had this huge realization
Which was?
that she'd never actually felt truly safe growing up. Yeah. Never.
And she gives examples, doesn't she? Like the money stress mixed with driving a fancy car, or the house always being a bit of a chaotic, unsafe construction zone.
Right. Those contradictions, looking successful on the outside, but feeling constant anxiety and like physical instability underneath.
Yeah.
It created this deep lack of safety.
And that impacts everything, she says. Making rational choices, even just letting yourself dream.
For sure. If your brain's always scanning for danger, there's no room for possibility. It's like trying to plan a picnic in a minefield.
So how do we start building that safety inside ourselves then if our past didn't give it to us?
Well, she talks about consciously creating an internal zone of security. It's not about fixing the outside world first,
Yeah.
but building that safe space within.
Okay. And that leads into the practical stuff, right? The self-soothing rituals.
Exactly, which are super helpful. Like labeling emotions. She draws on Fitch, not hand for this.
Tell me more about that. It sounds simple, maybe too simple.
Well, it's about gently acknowledging what you feel
Mm,
without judgment,
mm.
just naming it. I notice my anxiety or whatever it is, and I take good care of my anxiety.
Okay.
And she says just naming it can bring this physical relief. Like the feeling is finally seen.
Yeah.
It actually engages a different part of your brain, takes some of the immediate panic out of it.
Huh, like switching on a light. Less scary when you can see it clearly. Okay. What else? Journaling. She calls it a citadel.
Yeah, which I love. She frames it as more than just venting. It's like creating a reliable anchor.
In a pretty unreliable world.
Exactly. And she emphasizes making it a pleasant ritual. Nice notebook, favorite pen, maybe a candle, a specific drink.
Making it feel special, not like homework.
Right. It becomes this little pocket of peace. And she says it can be a window to the life you want. Writing things down makes them more real, helps you figure stuff out.
Like sketching out a blueprint for yourself. I like that. She also mentions an emotion wheel. How does that fit in?
The emotion wheel just helps you get more specific than mad or sad, It shows
Yeah.
all these nuances.
Like finding the exact shade of feeling.
Kind of, yeah. She realized she often felt a whole mix of things at once. Naming those specific feelings, especially the uncomfortable ones, actually makes them less overwhelming. It untangles the knot.
Okay, got it. And then there's mindfulness and meditation, which, let's be honest, can feel kind of intimidating. What's her take?
She's super honest about struggling with it at first, said it sometimes made her panic more.
Relatable.
Totally. But a friend helped her reframe it. It's not about stopping thoughts. It's about noticing them and noticing the feelings underneath, gently.
Ah, like observing the traffic, not trying to halt it.
Exactly. And her friend called it a gym for the mind, not a relaxing beach. It took practice.
That mind gym idea is great. Takes the pressure off needing to be instantly calm.
Right. And tied into that is finding pleasantness, this idea from Alan Liu.
Finding pleasantness, even when things are tough.
Yeah. Actively looking for and tuning into small, pleasant things in your day. A good cup of coffee, sunshine.
The little things.
Exactly. It helps counterbalance the hard stuff, stops you from getting totally flooded. You don't have to just power through everything grimly. There's value in noticing the good bits, too.
Okay, so we're building this internal toolkit. Naming feelings, journaling, finding pleasantness. Now, she also talks about understanding why we react so strongly sometimes. The whole, if it's hysterical, it's historical thing.
Yes, this is huge. It basically means that big, seemingly out of proportion reactions in the present often link back to old wounds.
Like her freaking out about apartment leases or getting really intense feedback at work.
Exactly. Those hysterical reactions, when you look closer, often echo feelings from childhood or past experiences.
And she's really open about her own childhood stuff, like the lack of affection, feeling scrutinized.
Right, which helps you see how those early experiences can shape our adult anxieties and reactions. Understanding that link is key.
So you can separate the past echo from the present reality.
Precisely. Respond to what's actually happening now, not the ghost of what happened then.
Which connects to choosing yourself, right? In relationships, in life generally. How does she talk about doing that?
Well, there's that wild story about Slow Burn Charles and the sex occult bombshell his brother dropped.
Oh my God, yes.
And her reaction, feeling frozen, needing to literally run away to process the anxiety.
Yeah.
It highlights knowing your limits.
Knowing when you need space before you can engage.
Exactly. It wasn't about being mean. It was about self-preservation.
Yeah.
Managing her own overwhelm first.
Which leads into boundaries, always tricky. What's her advice there?
It's about checking in with yourself. Are you actually ready to listen or engage right now? And then communicating that need clearly.
Easier said than done sometimes.
For sure.
Yeah.
But she gives this formula. When you did X, it made me think, believe Y, which made me feel Z.
The I statement approach, basically, focusing on your experience.
Exactly. It makes it less about blaming the other person and more about sharing your own reality. Harder to argue with someone's feelings.
That feels usable, less confrontational. And then self-compassion. How does she make that feel less, I don't know, fluffy?
She connects it to internal family systems, this idea that we have different parts inside us.
Like an inner critic, an inner child,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. And self-compassion is about being kind to all those parts, even the ones we don't like much. The grumpy part, the scared part.
Treating yourself like you'd treat a friend who is struggling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you practice that for yourself, it naturally makes it easier to have compassion for other people too.
Mm-hmm.
She even has a journaling exercise for it, a self-compassion party trick.
Making it tangible. I like that. She also gets real about societal pressures, like around being single.
Oh, yeah. She talks about being the last single friend and realizing that not having a partner didn't mean she was failing at life.
Which is a huge pressure, especially for women.
Totally. She found real peace and joy in connecting with herself, her internal family, and redefining success on her own terms, not based on relationship status or external stuff.
Finding contentment within. And that leads to building your own rituals, defining your own version of success.
Absolutely. Focusing on actions you want to take, celebrating the effort, not just the outcome.
Taking yourself seriously.
Yeah, actively choosing how you want to live, building confidence through those consistent self-chosen rituals, creating a life that feels right for you.
Wow. Okay, this book really covers so much ground, doesn't it? Financial anxiety, imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah, she dives into those too. Her money sickness from her parents' chaos, learning financial literacy, defining enough.
And that powerful line, I own my money doesn't own me.
Right. And tackling imposter syndrome with things like knowing your internal values, being kind to yourself, challenging that negative self-talk.
It's all connected, really, that self-awareness, self-compassion.
Definitely. And reconnecting to your essential self. What makes you feel alive? What feels easy? Where do you feel most you?
She talks about that dance party experience, feeling free.
Yes. And meeting Red Sweater Guy, feeling seen and accepted, cat sweater and all. That feeling of safety being key to connection.
True connection isn't about being saved, but two whole people shining together, like that star analogy she uses.
Alberio, yeah. Beautiful. And then there's the family stuff. Healing those complex wounds.
Which is a journey, realizing she might have been a blessing to her parents, challenging old beliefs.
And finding her own capacity to care, like with her friends' kids. Using that future me concept to guide choices.
Freezing her eggs for future me, taking space from her dad to heal.
It's all part of finding salvation in honesty, grief, and gratitude, as she puts it.
And finally, that connection to the goddess Tara, meaning star, mother of liberation.
Finding resonance in that name, that archetype of compassion and wisdom, it's a powerful ending.
This has been, wow, such a rich, deep dive into glow in the fucking dark. It's packed with so much heart and, like, genuinely useful stuff.
It really is. Tools for soothing yourself, for healing, for choosing yourself, like you said, even when things feel like a total mess.
So, for you listening, maybe just pause for a sec. What part of this conversation, what idea kind of pinged for you?
Yeah, what resonated? Maybe it's just giving yourself permission to feel crummy without judging it.
Or maybe it's that idea of making journaling feel like a little treat for yourself. Or just being a bit kinder to your different inner parts.
It's like one small thing, something tiny you could maybe try this week.
And just remember Tara's whole point, right? That glow.
Yeah.
It's not something you have to earn or find somewhere else. It's like already in there.
Yeah. It's about uncovering it, nurturing it, with kindness, and just letting it shine in your own perfectly imperfect, messy human